this time, we have Senior Offensive Assistant Travis Trickett. Questions for Coach Trickett? Greg?
So Travis, since you work with everybody, I guess we just got to give your offensive overview. So give us, what's this offense look like? I mean, everybody wants to compare it to what it looked like last year. So what you see is this year's progress from last year's.
You know, every team's different. So this is a completely different team than last year. So you got to kind of judge it you try to judge it not based on last year. Try to judge it based on what you think this team's capable of and are we getting to that point on track, on the pace that Coach Rod expects. And I would say we're probably right on schedule. I don't think we're ahead of schedule. I think we're probably right on schedule. We're definitely not behind. One thing that we made a point was, we signed a big class of freshmen. We wanted to make sure that Coach Rod, when he got the job, that first signing class was already signed. So this was actually Coach Rod's first class that is of guys that he's picked out and with our staff. And so we signed a big class there, and then we brought in a bunch of guys through the portal that we felt we needed experience. We wanted guys that had logged snaps, and because experienced players have been in the battles, they advance faster, they progress faster, and that has shown up, I think, especially in the offensive line. We got a bunch of guys that have a lot of snaps logged. So that's been a pretty, it's been fun to see that group come along. But really like the team. I think I like the group. I think we got a bunch of really good guys that have the right mentality. We're not having to coach how to do things, like how to practice. Like they're coming to work with that. It's more or less, coaching ball, coaching technique, coaching decisions. Where, in year one, you're always dealing with the other aspect of it, no matter how many guys are returning or whatnot. So I think that's been really good and really encouraging to see.
You mentioned, I guess last week, to kind of simplify things and not game plan so much, but just have guys go against each other. You said he's getting a lot of good information. What are you seeing from that, and how is that helping the guys?
Whenever you recruit somebody, whether it's high school or a transfer, whoever it may be, like, you've made that decision to take that player because you saw something. And a lot of times, if you acquire that player and you're not seeing what you saw, why is that? And a lot of times it's because they're thinking, and then sometimes it's other things, But for one thing that Coach wanted to eliminate this spring to evaluate what we had was he wanted to eliminate the thinking piece. Like, I don't want them to be able to say, that he doesn't understand or he doesn't have this. I want to see what kind of player we have if they don't have to think. So how do you do that? You dumb it down. So this spring's really been about he wants to see our guys play fast and see who we have. When they know what to do and how to do it and how it's coached, what player do we have in that player? And then when you have that, you can evaluate, okay, I have what I feel like is a Big 12 caliber player in that. I have a guy that I think can win the conference with that guy. So you get an idea of gauging, like, all right, what do I actually have? Oh, that guy, he's playing as fast as he can, but I don't know if he can do it just quite yet. So that's really what it's an evaluation piece. It's an evaluation tool, and that's what we've been trying to do on both sides of the ball. And so maybe that's slowed down the offensive installation piece, which we have all summer to do that. We have all summer, all fall camp to do all that. But we really wanted to know going into summer, who can we win with when they know what to do and how to do it. And so that's really right now what we've been evaluating, and that's why Coach split up the teams into blue and white and all that. And it's been first time I've done it in the spring, and it's been fun. It's been interesting.
Flip it around, I guess, from a defensive perspective, you're trying to trick the offense, confuse them, because that's how you get an advantage. But it also kind of puts them on point too, right? Okay, here's the guys who can do what, and now we got to figure out how to go from there, right?
Correct. And the old school of having year one, signing your players and having them for 2-3 years in the system, and all that, it's not how it is now. So same thing on the defensive piece. Part of our defense is it looks like one thing and it becomes another thing at post snap, and there's so much complexity to it. So it's kind of, if anything, working. Like Zach's having probably biting his fist right now, wishing he could do more. But it allows you to see, okay, we got these new D linemen, we got these new linebackers, new corner, new safeties. All right, when they know what to do and how to do it, and they get put in that scenario, can they make that play, or do we need to call something else to help that certain player out? So that's kind of, it's really, you're trying to find out or information you used to find out in a season or two with a player. You're trying to find out in a shorter amount of time, right? And older players that you didn't have for 2-3 years. So that's really what we've been trying to do. And I think there's been a lot of positive information that we've gotten. We've identified a lot of positives, and we've also identified, hey, we need to be better here. This is going to be something we're going to have to address in the summer. And so we've been gathering all that information, and we got another practice on Wednesday, and then we've got Saturday's last evaluation for that.
So I guess the question is, how's it working with your dad? How's it working with your brother? What's it like to have all the Tricketts back?
Well,
in the building?
apparently, Clint caught a stray last time Dad was up here, and our family text started lighting up, and so I just said, hey, apparently it's just affirmation that I'm the favorite. That's all it is. But no, our family text, you gotta have thick skin. But no, it's been good. Dad tries to avoid it and all that stuff, and Chance earned that opportunity. Like, he's come in here and changed how his evaluation, what we do from an evaluation standpoint of both college kids, our current team, and high school guys. The detail in it is something that I haven't been exposed to, and he brought it from the Rams, and so it's been that's been awesome. That revamp of that department, along with Chuck Lilly, the addition of Ben Kerr and all those guys, and Hirsch, and that whole crew does a great job. But then with Dad, that's one thing. Like, I coached with him, or I GA'd with him at Florida State in 2008, 9, and 10. I was with him for 3 years, and I always told myself, like, I really wish I could go back and, like, how it is, like, go back and learn. Like, when I was here as a student assistant, when I was at Alabama in 07, or Florida State from that time as a GA, as a young coach, I wish I could go back and relive it and take more out of it than what I did. And so this is my at-bat to do that. And so, as a guy that's, I've been a play caller for like 10 years, and I've had a bunch of different offensive line coaches. And so now to kind of be with him and kind of be on the back end, not where I'm at in my career, where I have more experience, and I've had more experience with different offensive line coaches, to be around him and to see why he's as good as he is, what makes him so good, and to sit in those meetings. And now, because I don't have a position like mentioned, I can sit in his meeting and listen. I can be at his individual and watch, and really, advance myself from that aspect too, And so it's something it's actually being able to, take advantage of something I didn't take advantage of. I worked with quarterbacks back in the day as a GA. So now I'm actually being able to, I get to get all positions, but I'm honing in on that position, just really trying to absorb, how he's done things. And because coaching is relative at every position, why he's so good at that, you can apply the same tactics to another position, So that's been a blessing. And it's been a blessing for West Virginia football. Coach Rod, I'm glad he made that decision and was able to get Coach Trickett here. And I think it'll pay dividends in the fall.
What do you call him?
In front of the players, in front of the staff, Coach Trickett. And then, but it's that Dad slips out. I can't. I mean, it is what it is. I'll do a good job to Rodriguez's. Raquel and Red. They call their dad Coach all the time. I need to do a better job of that. I need to be a little bit more professional.
Travis, what does your role look like during practice? I know when I watch practice, you're running around everywhere. You got a walkie-talkie. Are you like everywhere during practice?
Yeah, well, I'm wherever Coach Rod needs me at the end of the day. So during the individual periods and the group periods, I'm at different areas where I feel like I want to evaluate things and see, what we need. Like last year was really making sure the standard of practice needed to be what Coach wanted to be. But now that our staff's kind of been together, they understand that. Coach Bullware is only our really new addition that hasn't worked with Coach Rod, but he's a vet. He's done it for a long time, so he's good. So I've got now it's really like, I'm with the offensive line a lot, watching them, watching how we're doing the drills there and evaluating all that kind of stuff. And then when we get to team periods, I'm with Coach Rodriguez, and I'm really there. It's kind of like a game day operation. So like we don't script a lot of practice. Like we call it from the cuff, and he calls it, and so I'm right there with him, just like on game day. Coach, hey, 3rd and 7, left hash, 11 personnel in the game. This is, giving the information, that kind of stuff. So it's really kind of game day rehearsal for us every day.
Talking about your players and evaluating them, saying, hey, are they good enough to win with? Are they Big 12 level players? How many in general, no matter whichever level you've coached at, do you have to have that are conference level performers in order to win, in order to
That's a
be
good
at
question.
the-
That's good. That's a fair question. I would say this: it's how well do they play and what you're asking them to do, because they're not going to be. It depends on what we're asking them to do offensively and how well are they doing it. And I think you've got to have, it's all starts at the line of scrimmage, 100%. And you've got to have a quarterback. And then, when it comes to skill players, it's the ability to make people miss out in space and play fast and, do the level, what coach is asking you to do within his play call. You got to do it at a high level, right? And so I think, from the line of scrimmage standpoint, feel really good about how we're progressing there. We're not there yet by no means. It's still a mentality thing, obviously, with Coach Trickett trying to get that instilled. But if you have 5 guys up there playing in unison and the communications at a high level, you can be a good offensive line. I think offensive line play in today's college football is not what it used to be back in the day. And it's probably because of the portal. You have a lot of mixtures and you have to throw something together faster. And so, you see, you can see good offensive lines. There's, when you turn on the tape of other teams and say, oh, that team's, yes, and so you see that. So we need to strive for that. And then from the skill, from the quarterback standpoint, we got a guy that had some experience last year that we won some games with Scotty. And then Mike's come in and competed, with the rest of those guys. So I feel like talent-wise, we've got plenty of talent in that room. Now it's, and we got some guys with some game experience. Now we just got to go out there and find the guy that fits us best. Skill-wise, we've got some guys come back. Jaden Bray, who y'all gonna talk to here in a little bit, who is, Jaden. When he's healthy, he is as good as I've been around. So excited about him. And because he works hard, he's a great kid. Puts his head down, work, does everything he has to do. I feel like the guys we've acquired, whether it's via recruiting or via the portal, are guys that we needed. We needed to upgrade our speed. I felt like we've done that. The ability to make people miss. That was like one of the main things with Cam Cook. He was one of the top guys at the running back position that was available that could make people miss out in space. So those are the things that we've looked for, and I think we've got some guys that can do that. And but again, we're not where we need to be. We just got to keep progressing.
You kind of alluded to that. Can I ask one more? You alluded to this. What did you learn last year that you've applied to what's going on right now? Obviously, you took things away from the Big 12, the style. What did you take away from that?
This league is, I tell this to recruits all the time, this league is an easy flip league. And I shouldn't say easy. This league is a league where you can flip quickly, faster maybe than some other leagues. And when I say that is like you look at the different champions we've had over the last 4 to 5 years. You look at a team like, Arizona State, when they went to the playoffs the year before that, they had a losing record. Texas Tech made a jump. Arizona this past year made a jump. And then you can flip the other way. You can have winning season or not. So, like, this league, probably top to bottom, is maybe the most it's not like, hey, these 4 teams are always at the top. That's not the case. Like, it is a very fluid league. And so, for me, what that tells us, like, that's why we want to make sure, coaches, like, I want guys with experience. I want guys that have played ball, that have been in battles. Because the teams that have made some of those flips, if you look at the classes they acquired the year before going into that year, that was one of the top stats that they had was they acquired snaps logged. And so that was one of Coach Rod's things was he wanted to make sure that we got guys that come in here that have been experienced. And that's the first step because last year we were probably one of the most inexperienced teams in the entire country. And hopefully, I don't know where we're at. It doesn't matter. I know we got a lot of guys that played a lot of snaps, played some ball, and been in some battles. And so that's probably why this spring's been a little bit smoother when it comes to that, even though we've added all these new guys and we're coaching more football rather than coaching all the extra stuff on the outside. Good. All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.